Yo, what is going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. So yesterday, I made a video giving out what I think is the most improved player on every single Eastern Conference team this season. Feel free to go watch that. But obviously, today we're doing the Western Conference. And when it comes to this, like I laid out with yesterday's video, going to try to be staying away from rookies. There's actually 2 rookies on this, but those guys both had sizable NHL sample sizes last year. One played 19 games, one played 24, but no rookies. There's not going to be Connor Bedard or Leo Carlson on this, who weren't in the NHL at all last year. I'm going to aim to go for guys that are below the ages of 26 because some guys have bounce back years more so than them just massively improving over a season. So that's kind of my 2 guidelines. Without further ado, let's get into it. We're starting with the Dallas Stars, and we are starting with Thomas Harley. 2 years ago, 34 games in the NHL, only 4 points, only played around 13 minutes a night. So basically all of last year, he played 6 games in the NHL kind of on an injury basis, but spent basically all of last season in the AHL, and it clearly worked out as he has 15 goals, 25 assists for 40 points in 69 games. One of the best under 23 defensemen just straight up in the entire NHL. He was a 2019 draftee, and when looking at how well he's played with Miro Heiskanen, which yes, Miro Heiskanen's a fantastic player, and he's going to elevate them around anyone around him. He has by far been the best partner that Miro Heiskanen has. They're second in the entire NHL in expected goals percentage of pairs with at least 400 minutes, only behind Bouchard and Ekholm at 59.7%. So he is obviously having a massive season. This guy is a fantastic skater. His defensive game has came a long way. He's the most improved player on the Dallas Stars for me, although you could obviously pick a Wyatt Johnston. I just think him going from kind of obscurity to start the season to now being a legit top pairing guy, he gets the nod. Next up, a guy that I mentioned in that Thomas Harley segment, Evan Bouchard for the Edmonton Oilers. Pretty obvious pick here when looking at Bouchard last year. Second pairing guy, had played 18-31 a night, 8 goals, 32 assists, 40 points in 82 games. This year, fully inherited that number 1 power play spot from Tyson Barrie. And it's not just the power play production as to why he has 72 points, 15 goals in 69 games. He's 6th in the entire NHL and even strength points as well. So don't get me wrong, he definitely benefits from playing on the power play, but he is generating a shit ton at even strength as well, just basically elevating his game in every single aspect. I think especially defensively compared to him coming into the league, I do agree he was a massive defensive liability, but if you watch him over recent years, he has improved that game, and this year especially, definitely helps that he's playing with Ekholm. But as I said before, they're the best pair in the entire NHL probably this year, rocking a 64.1% expected goals percentage as well as a 60% goals percentage when they're on the ice. They have been absolutely fantastic, and Evan Bouchard for me is a definite top 20 defenseman at this point. Not sure I'm going to put him quite at top 15 or top 10 yet, but he's a legit number 1 in the NHL right now. Vancouver Canucks, you can go with the Quinn Hughes, but I went with the Nils Hoglander. When looking at a Quinn Hughes, he's definitely improved, but he was already 7th in the Norris last year, near point per game. He was a fantastic player. When looking at a guy like Nils Hoglander, he had a very good rookie year 2 seasons ago. Yeah, I think it was 2 or 3 seasons ago at this point. But last year really struggled. 3 goals, 6 assists, 9 points in 25 games. Spent basically all of last year in the AHL for the most part. This year, though, he has been very, very good for the Vancouver Canucks. 22 goals, 11 assists, and that's all at even strength. He hasn't even got second power play time this year. So in looking at that, at 22 goals, he's tied with JT Miller on his own team, Brady Tkachuk, Sebastian Aho, and Clayton Keller, and ahead of a bunch of other stars in terms of even strength development. Yes, he is shooting, or even strength production. When it comes to his shooting, he is shooting 21%, but I think assuming he gets the bump to the power play next year, I think he's easily repeat low 20s, maybe even mid 20s goals. Last year, again, struggled a shit ton. Not saying his NHL career was over, but we weren't really sure what he was going to become. He is back on track to becoming a very good middle sixer for the Vancouver Canucks, which is what they need because they have lacked kind of depth scoring in recent years. They're getting it this year, and as a result, they're firmly in the President's Trophy race. St. Louis Blues, Jake Neighbors is the pick. Another guy that is having a great goal-scoring season. Last year had 10 points in 45 games, mainly on their 3rd or 4th line. He got a bump up. He's playing with a lot of their elite talent going up and down in their top 6 for the most part. Playing with Thomas, playing with Shen, playing with Buchnevich, playing with Kyrou. I don't know why I said Kyrou. But when looking at him, 25 goals, 35 points in 72 games. And yes, he is shooting a little bit high. He's shooting 18%, but that isn't that insane. When you think about a guy that has 25 goals that kind of came out of nowhere, you think that he's probably shooting 25%. So going forward, I think Jake Neighbors has developed a long way in terms of his offensive game. And I think he's going to be a solid maybe second line goal scorer for the most part in the St. Louis Blues while they go through this kind of retool. He's definitely a valuable piece and has made his presence known. The Winnipeg Jets, Gabe Vilardi had a very good season last year with the LA Kings, but it's really elevated his game. When looking at him, he was hurt for a while, but he has 16 goals, 14 assists, 30 points in 38 games right now. He has established himself as a legit first liner, and especially early on in the season, Mark Scheifele, Kyle Connor, and Vilardi was looking like one of the best lines in the entire NHL. Vilardi on that top line has been a massive contributor to the Winnipeg Jets' success this year, a very hard-nosed player that's not afraid to get into kind of the greasy places on that line. And as a result, I think he is the most improved guy for the Winnipeg Jets, having a very solid season. The Nashville Predators, I wasn't really sure who to pick for this. Evangelista is kind of like their one young guy, so I went with him. There's not really anybody having like a career season. Nyquist, I think, is more of a bounce back season compared to maybe improving at 33 years old. But when looking at Evangelista, played solid in 24 games last year, but just has really established himself as a legit NHLer, a solid second liner, third liner, more so second liner this year for the Nashville Predators, and has been playing very good, especially on this streak that they're going on, this absolute heater. So I've been impressed with Evangelista. Last year's small sample size, he's proven he's a legit good NHLer, and the Nashville Predators have a pretty bright future for the most part. Colorado, another guy that I don't really love picking because he's 28 years old. I am going to go with Jonathan Drouin. When looking at him, obviously last year, 2 goals in 58 games. He did have 27 assists, though. So when looking at him, he was kind of a reclamation project for the Vancouver Canucks. Do I think he's massively improved? No, not per se. He probably did make some minor tweaks this season considering how bad his goal scoring was, but he obviously has improved in terms of his production this season. 14 goals, 32 assists, 46 points in 68 games. And not all of that came with McKinnon. He has shuffled around the lineup, and I don't even think it's a bad thing if all of that came with McKinnon because he's able to keep up with McKinnon at a goddamn like $800,000 salary cap hit. So when looking at Drouin, he's definitely a better goal. His shot just looks far more dangerous this season, far more deceptive, and he's been able to get kind of his skating back up to an elite level. Next up, Sharon Govich for the Calgary Flames, my favorite player. 13 goals, 17 assists, 30 points last year in New Jersey. He was kind of detached from Jack Hughes. He played with Jack Hughes the 2 seasons prior. His production dropped off for the most part. Goes to Calgary. Wasn't expected to play a major role. You were kind of expecting 30, 35 points for the most part. 28 goals, 23 assists, 51 points. 68 games. Just looks like a far more complete player of his offense prior when I used to watch him in New Jersey. Very reliant on Jack Hughes. He can create his own offense now in Calgary. I have obviously been much impressed with his overall offensive game this season, and the goal scoring has been very impressive. Do I think he's going to hit 30 goals again in his career? I'd probably bet no, but I think he can be a solid 25 and 25 guy going forward for the Calgary Flames, and considering Tyler Toffoli lasted 60 games on the New Jersey Devils, they clearly won that trade, and they got Suniev in the draft. Next up, LA. Another pretty obvious one here. Quinton Byfield, 3 goals, 19 assists, 22 points in 53 games last year. Now, 19 goals, 33 assists, 52 points in 68 games. Just fully displaying his elite traits that we saw when he was a draft prospect. He had very good hands, very good skater at 6'5", could move, could fly like the wind. He's showing that this year. Prior years, he just didn't really have the full package, didn't have the awareness. The skating wasn't really translating to the NHL. He was more of a put his head down and try to go, and it wasn't working. He's really the full package this year, and especially when it comes to shooting, it's been very impressive, and he's more confident in his shot. He had 74 shots on goal in 53 games last year. Now he's at 138 and 69, so he's shooting 2 shots per game compared to last year was around like 1.3. He's always had the tools. He's always had like he's always been a 5-tool player. He just didn't really have a toolbox in prior years, and apparently he was dealing with like 2 sprained wrists last year. That was the report that came out before the season, and I tend to believe that now that we're seeing him fully healthy, just play fantastic with guys like Kopitar and Kempe. The Vegas Golden Knights, not a ton of guys to pick, so I ended up going with an Adin Hill. I think his stats haven't really improved for the most part, but the workload has. He played 27 games last year and had like a 9-13. This year he's played 44 games, has a 9-14, I believe. So in looking at it, he's just far more where he can handle the workload of a starter. 44 games, and that's with a 6-week injury. He's been playing like when he's healthy, like 4 out of 5 games for the Vegas Golden Knights for the most part. It has been very impressive seeing this guy develop from an underrated 6'6" project goalie to now being a legit no doubt top 15 goalie, in my opinion, knocking on top 10 if he has another season in the mid 9-10s for the most part. He has been very impressive. Another improved season for him. Another rookie, Marco Rossi. He's a rookie, but he did play 19 games last year and only have 1 assist. So I am going to include him on this, considering this season, 20 goals, 17 assists, 71 points. He has taken that next step, playing very good both ways of the ice, what we expected from a Marco Rossi back when he had like 120 points in his goddamn draft year. He has been very impressive, although the Minnesota Wild have disappointed on the whole. Him and Brock Faber have been 2 of the main highlights of the season, and it looks like Marco Rossi's going forward can become a solid 30-30 two-way guy. Them having 30-30 from Marco Rossi and 35 from 35 from Joel Eriksson. They don't have that true number 1 center, but that'd be a pretty solid center duo going forward for the Minnesota Wild. The San Jose Sharks, Fabian Zetterlund, like with Sharon Govich, now that he's out of New Jersey, he's breaking out for the most part, massively improving. He had 23 points in 67 games last year, splitting time mainly in the New Jersey Devils' bottom 6. Did get a bump in ice time once he got to San Jose. And this year he's playing a pretty massive role for the San Jose Sharks. 18.50 a night with 20 goals, 15 assists, 35 points in 70 games. He always was a solid bottom 6 two-way guy, and now he's doing it in a serious first-line role, and it's been very impressive. A very intelligent player that can create plays that you don't even see coming. I have been very impressed with Fabian Zetterlund, and I think going forward, he's definitely not a core piece of the San Jose Sharks' long-term plans, but he's probably going to be when they're a playoff team in 4 or 5 years. He's going to be a very solid second liner that can get you like 50, 55 points. It has been very impressive to see Fabian Zetterlund this year. Arizona, Dylan Guenther. When looking at Dylan Guenther, last year did appear in 33 NHL games, 6 goals, 9 assists, 15 points. He was okay. He was perfectly fine. They sent him to the AHL to start this year, tears it up, 28 points in 29 games, and now he's in the NHL. His goal scoring, what we expected him to develop to be in the NHL, his goal scoring, 11 goals, 11 assists, 22 points in 34 games. So he's goal scoring at a much higher rate. The dude can absolutely rip it. And for me, he's been far more of a complete player. When he debuted last year, he just wasn't really ready. He wasn't really bulked up, and as a result was kind of a defensive liability out there. He's not just searching for goals out there. He's playing more of a 200-foot game, and Dylan Guenther looks poised to be. I said he was going to be a 35 and 35, 40 and 40 guy. I had him very high back in 2021. I don't know, as like a number 6 or number 7 prospect. I'm still extremely high, especially considering him and Cooley have been a very interesting duo this season. You got the speedy playmaker with the sniper. They are going to be great in 3 to 4 years. Anaheim, Mason McTavish, 43 points in 82 games last year, 40 points in 57 games this year. And when you look at it, he has 23 assists. 17 of those are primary to only 6 secondary assists. I think he's just far more efficient in his own zone in terms of creating chances, and he's turning the puck over far less, which is very important for a young player. 33 giveaways last year to 17 this season. I think he's going to be a very high-end second-line center for the I almost said San Jose Sharks. Anaheim Ducks, I think he's going to be their high second-line center, while Leo Carlsson probably develops into that first-line center. We got 2 more to go. Joey Daccord, obviously for the Seattle Kraken. Last year, over the last couple of years, he got drafted in the expansion draft by Seattle, had an .884 in 19 games over the 2 years with Seattle. But this year, he's fully stolen this starting job. It's been very impressive to watch him. A .917 in 47 games, has been the no doubt number 1 guy since like late November. And since December 20th, has a .924 save percentage, establishing himself as a legit starter in the NHL. And he's only like 25 or 26 years old. The future is pretty bright in Seattle. And then lastly, Chicago, Philip Kurashev, 25 points in 70 games, looked kind of expendable to the Chicago Blackhawks. He got 46 points in 64 games. Yes, he plays with Connor Bedard, but it's not his fault. He's taking full advantage of that. He's being able to keep pace with the Connor Bedard. No one else on Chicago's roster can do that. I think he has taken a step in his game this season in terms of just being more of a dynamic player in transition. I have been impressed by him. Obviously, if he wasn't playing with Connor Bedard, he probably would still be like a mid-30s point guy, but that would still be an improvement on last year. I think he has taken strides in his game, as well as getting far better center play last year. So, Philip Kurashev. To recap, Harley, Bouchard, Hoglander, Neighbors, Velarde, Evangelista, Duren, Sharon Govich, Byfield, Hill, Rossi, Zetterlund, Guenther, McTavish, Daccord, Kurashev. Let me know in the comments what do you think. I'll be seeing you in the next one.